All right, everyone, welcome back to the workshop. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different than we normally do. If you've seen my other videos, you probably see that I'm a knife maker. And in this video, we're not exactly making a knife. There will be a knife involved with it though, however, because I'm going to make a knife that matches this guitar. So it'll be kind of a little cool combo thing. So this is a 3D printed guitar. Which is absolutely insane. It is not my idea. There's a number of people have made files and done this over the years. This is something that I wanted to do and share the process. I did, however, make my own changes to hopefully make this file better than the one. So I kind of remixed someone else's Fusion 360 file. So I've made some custom changes to these files and stuff to fit the needs of what I want to do. Whether it was my bridge or I know this is really stiff material, but I don't want it to give and break over time and have to reprint it. If I do, it's not the end of the world. I have extra filament, but I don't want this to break, so I have incorporated a metal rod into the body of it. So we'll have to cut this down to size. I will provide the filament that I'm using, the link to that. I got it on Amazon. This is forest green, and my color combo here is inspired by Fender's 40th anniversary series where they did a forest green with like a goldish brass. So that's kind of the theme I'm going for. I really like the look of it. But I'll put a link to all the parts I used. And as far as parts go, none of this is expensive. This is all probably what you consider low grade, something you would build a Squire out of, or something that Fender made a Squire out of. So these are not high-end components. This is a proof of concept in terms of how well is this thing going to play, how well is it going to hold up. I don't want to invest a lot of money into it. It's a fun project. It's a great thing that you can build with your friends or family or something like that if you've got a printer. And this is all done out of fairly affordable PLA. You can get PLA cheaper than what this stuff costs, but to find the color that I wanted, I had to go with a company that, it's still cheap. It's like $25 or something like that a roll. It took about a hair over of a single roll, so I would suggest buying 2 rolls because you're going to have mistakes, you're going to have print failures, and that's exactly what I had. I'll also provide the link to the remix of what I did for this and the changes that I've made to make this fit a more modern style Telecaster bridge versus the ashtray bridge. So let's go through each component and talk about them a little bit, and let's start putting this thing together. All right, here before us we have all of the tools and parts that we're going to need, minus some glue, but should be everything. So kind of starting from left to right, I've got a scale over there because I'm curious about what this body's going to weigh once it's assembled. I've got some drill bits to drill some holes out. My Jayco Makers screwdriver, kinetic driver. I love this thing. Sorry if I'm butchering his name. Soldering iron. Any of them will work. This is a wireless battery powered one from Lowe's. Drill, micrometers, and a rubber mallet. As far as the guitar goes, we've got some brass strap lugs. The plug. I couldn't find this in brass, and then I found it in brass, but I wanted to shoot this video, so I do plan on ordering a new one of these in brass, as well as the tuners. So these are the tuners. It says Fender on it, which is funny because they're not Fender. But they sell these in brass as well. But these came with the neck, so we're just going to go with them for right now. They're easy enough to swap out. We've got the back plate for the neck. It's got a Fender F on it. I don't know how they get away with that. We got our wire lugs or nuts or whatever they're called. They go in the back of the guitar and the string runs through them. Screws, our brass, awesome brass pick guard. None of this stuff's expensive, like I said before. There's going to be some modifications on this as well as we go along. One, I'll preface, I've never put a guitar together before in my life. I've been around in my whole life and tinkered with various parts of them, but I am no, luthier, however you say it. This is going to be kind of my first adventure with that. So it's a great one to practice on. So I know there's going to be a little bit of modification right here because it doesn't quite fit around the neck. We've got a 12 millimeter steel rod. Got this at Lowe's. You can get it at Home Depot, anything like that. This is what we'll be using. We'll be cutting it to length. Some good old Slinkies here. I haven't bought Slinkies in 15 years probably, which is crazy. But yeah, then we got the neck. This was like the cheapest neck I could find on Amazon. It's made out of real maple. I don't know what the top is, the fretboard is. But when I got it, it was pretty rough looking in terms of the finish. It came with sandpaper, so it came that way on purpose. It's probably a cost saving measure for them. So you are expected to finish it out however you want. So I just opted to use my own sandpaper because it didn't go high enough from what they provided. And I did what I do with my knife handles. I took it to 600 grit and then buffed it on the buffing wheel with pink no scratch. So you got this nice, it was much shinier than that, but as I find with my handles too, it goes a little bit more matte as it sets. And this is coated with like kind of a liquid board butter kind of beeswax mixture just to kind of help seal it off. Next thing, this was really what kind of drew me to inspired me to want to continue with this build. Was this. It's cheap in terms of like the cost of like a full package like this. But surprisingly, it looks really nice up close. It's just really cool looking. I don't know what brand these pickups are. They're probably not high quality at all. Obviously, you could switch any of these components out. It is real brass, which is pretty cool. I know nothing about whether brass makes a good bridge or not, but this is more of your modern style Telecaster bridge with the 3 screws in it and the 6 holes for your strings to go through the body. So 2 pickups there, and then tone, volume, and your selector there. So we'll have to wire. This is where the soldering comes in because we've got to solder a couple of these components up. And they did provide you with a wiring diagram, so we'll set that aside. All right, as far as the 3D print components, these are a really cool design because I did not do this. I did incorporate them into the changes that I made, but these are dovetailed. So you can see them there. This is probably a better picture. There's dovetails there, and they slot into each other like a puzzle. So the goal is to slot together, so that helps with any kind of torsion. And then you apply a super glue super glue is going to be the best option here. So yeah, you would put some super glue as they slot in. So some slots are better than others as far as how they fit. You may have to modify them, with a razor blade to get them to fit up nicely. But they do all. That's kind of what the rubber mallet's for, because I have fit all these together and taken them apart. But some joints are a little bit tighter than others and require just a little bit of love to get them into place. All right. So as far as changes go, let's see. One of the main. Let's see, how many changes did I make? I didn't make a whole lot. There was some issues with the file that I had to fix, particularly this part was actually, for some reason they messed it up. This part was 1 millimeter too thin. I think the overall is 45 millimeters and this was 44. So when you slot them together, this was a millimeter shorter, which is not what you want. So I did fix that in the file that is provided. The biggest change that I made was back here, and this is for the bridge. So the original file was made for like an original Telecaster bridge, and I actually ordered one as a backup, and that was 4 screws into the body, and then the screws set on the outside of the bridge, on the back side of the bridge, so they don't pass through the body. So I wanted more of the modern style, mainly because I wanted that I wanted this guy, and they didn't sell it in the standard bridge and selectors. So I wanted to modify this. I couldn't really find anyone that had made this mix, so I went through and did the measurements after a bunch of testing, and then you can see that's where these little guys go. I did discover that my file, this size, was wrong. I have since changed that. I just ended up drilling mine out a little bit. It was so close, and this almost fits. So probably what I'm going to do is hit it with a a soldering iron to transfer some heat into this brass, and then it'll fit perfectly in there, and it'll be great. So yes, made that, like I said, made that change so it passes through, and you're good there. The biggest change that I made, the people that built it haven't complained about anything like this, but my worry is once this is together, if you put your arm on the guitar, you're going to cause it to bend and change the tone of your string, the pitch or whatever. So what I did is that's where that steel rod comes into play, and you can see it passes through there. So these two pieces go together, and then so it comes in here and then bottoms out right before the bridge, because obviously the strings go through there. So it stops right about here. So that's going to give us a lot of stiffness on the guitar. So hopefully it can help alleviate some of that. Probably won't fully eliminate it, but it will definitely hopefully help with that situation. So yeah, like I said, we'll have to cut that bar down to size. So as far as orders of operations, I think the best thing to start on is going to be fitting the neck on this. And so watched a couple of videos on how to do that. It seems pretty straightforward, just making sure everything's lined up. So that's kind of what we're gonna start on, or gluing some of these components up, because those are kind of easy wins. So all right, let's switch to the next view. Okay, after thinking through this a little bit, I think one of the best things is to first connect the bridge area with the top where the neck mounts, because I think I'm gonna have to mount the bridge and use it as a reference to make sure that my neck is square before I actually mark and drill my holes. So that's kind of what I'm gonna do next, is just kind of attach that on there. I'll do that number. Okay, so there we go. We've got the core, the most important parts taken care of, and we can start fitting up the neck. And then once we get that, we can install that bridge. So yeah, let's do that next. Okay, I've kind of had a change of plans again. I think one of the best things going to be is this isn't perfectly flat, and so I want to try adding the metal rod to see if I can get this to be perfectly flat before I add the final super glue in this. So I'm going to do that by I've just got a piece of like brazing rod. I'm going to run it down there. You can see we're down there. And then I'm just going to mark the height. All right. So one thing that I didn't mention is I actually made a plug for this too. So this plug, I'll have to take that thickness into account. But this plug is going to go in here to help keep the metal rod from coming out and just to hide it. So let's measure this rod or this plug. I use metric for pretty much everything, so I hope you can forgive me. So we'll say 10.4 on that guy. So let's take it to 10.4, close enough. And then I'm just gonna lay that there at my mark. Cool. All right, and then that is going to be my distance in which I need to cut this metal rod off of. So I can take this now and just sort of lay that on there. Roughly, this isn't an exact science here. Doesn't have to be exactly that length. We're just looking for a ballpark there. So, all right, I'm going to cut this to length, and we'll put it in the body. Okay, I've got my rod cut down to length. It should be about right. We can check it with this. see. Yep, I think we're good there. And if that plug sticks out a little bit, it's not a big deal. All right, cool. So, nice. Okay. Wow, that you can really feel the weight difference already. So there you can see the plug in there, and I could probably actually use the plug to wow, that couldn't be any better. And honestly, I don't think that plug is coming out. So, wow, that's perfect. You can see there I fixed that in the file, by the way, so you don't see any of the rod. But it does help alleviate some of the pressure. Yeah. Wow, that really added a lot of weight. Okay, so we've got our bridge here, setting off to the side, the 3 mounting screws. I've picked the appropriate drill bit. I forget what size I picked out here. I think it was the smallest one in my drill bit packet. In this, I don't know if this is a standard screw size for your bridge, so it may vary depending on which bridge you go for. So I'm not going to tell you use this drill bit, but I'm using their drill. I have a drill press and I have a Dremel drill press, but when it comes to PLA, you can crack it really easily if you don't have a fine-tuned control like what you do with the trigger on this, because I can easily stop, so the downside is it's not mounted perfect, but I've got some guide holes here, so it shouldn't be too bad. Okay, so I've got my 3 holes drilled there and cleaned out. I'm ready to hopefully accept these. It should be the right drill bit size. If not, we'll go up one more. I've already started on the back. I did a kind of a test fit with these little wire things, and they look to be fitting up really nicely. So I'll kind of show you real quick what I did with that. So I took my soldering iron and I'm just putting it inside of that. I'll start on this side. Putting it in there, and the heat from the soldering gun will heat up the brass pretty quickly and make this be a really nice fit. No, that looks good. So there we go. I'll go and do the rest. Okay, so I've got the nuts. They're on the back. They look really nice. Looks good. So that's what the strings will come up through. And now we're ready to attach our bridge temporarily. All right, cool. We'll get those mounted up and I'll bring you back. All right, we've got our bridge attached here. We actually may not have to take it off because these wires feed up through there. So I should be good on that, but we'll find out when we cross that bridge. Put some more super glue on there just to kind of seal everything up. All that's going to be hidden by the pick guard, so it doesn't matter. Next step is the scary part, because this neck does not have holes in it. Most of them don't, but we have to drill them. So we're going to do that by placing the neck into the slot here and clamp it down with a wood clamp and some leather to help protect it. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to set that jig up and then I'll bring you guys back. I forgot there's something that I need to do first, because we're going to put a couple of strings on this connected to the bridge and not tune them up, but give them a little bit of tightness so that we can string those strings up and use them as a guideline to make sure that our neck is in line. So I'm going to install these right now. And then you've got this barrel that goes over it, and I think this washer. Yes. So they go like that, and then that gets tightened up. So let me install those tuners, and then yeah, we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so that took a little bit of finagling. It's probably overdid it in terms of I didn't have to focus that hard on it. But basically what I did was took some of those wood clamps and clamped this to that with 2 clamps, a piece of leather to help protect the fretboard. And then I strung the E string on there and a high E string, 2 of those, and pulled them on there and roughly got it to where they were even, that the neck wasn't at a slant. Luckily this 3D print has a nice, flat pocket on it, so you can really use that. But then I ran, when it was clamped up, I ran a 1/4 inch bit, because that's the size of these holes, up in there and marked the back of the neck. So you can see there are 4 marks there. So those should be the marks in which I need to reference by. So next step is I'm going to take an 1/8 inch bit. We'll go over to the drill press, and I'm going to drill down in. I made a measurement of how far these bolts stick above it, and I went just a hair more, so that way I don't drill too deep into the neck. So go over to the drill press and drill those out, and show you what that looks like after I'm done. Okay, I've got my holes drilled. That was very, very nerve-wracking and scary to do, but it looks good. Everything looks nice and even and lined up. So let's hope that worked. Do a test fit right here. Oh yeah, that's absolutely perfect. That looks really, really nice. All right, cool. I think the next step is bolting the neck on. So I may finish the body first, and then we can come back around. That way we don't have this big neck in our way. So we're gonna do that. I'm gonna get the wiring diagram, and we'll start wiring up the pickups and stuff. So yeah. Okay, here's where we're at. Having a little technical difficulties with my soldering iron. It's not wanting to cooperate. I also didn't have any flux. I didn't realize I was out. But it turns out you can use petroleum jelly based stuff. So this is like Vaseline. This is a knockoff brand of Vaseline, and it actually works. I was a little surprised. So as you can see, I went ahead and put the body together. That was real quick. It snaps together like a puzzle piece. Because I needed the routes and stuff to push the wires through, and because they needed to line up because the way this is designed. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep trucking. I've got the bridge pickup wired up. I've got the ground and the switch here, and then now I'm gonna move forward with probably soldering up the jack. I feel like that will be an easy win. So I'm gonna do that now, and I'll bring you back. Okay, I think I've got everything soldered up, but the audio jack. So I think kind of the next step is, I think I need to bolt the neck on, and then it'll be fitting up the pick guard, and then after that it'll be some fine tuning with the truss rod and things like that. But I think bolting the neck on is probably the next step in this process, and then we'll mount the pick guard. We'll mount this control box here, and then I'll wire this up. I'm not going to mount this until I get this wired up and bring my amp in here and test it out. So let's bolt the neck up, I guess. We do have it all together. It should all be soldered up right. So the last thing. Well, not the last thing, but we need to solder the jack on. All right, guys, here it is. It is finished. I had a little bit of wiring issues that were my fault, and I still have my switch backwards. I don't care about that. It's not a big deal. I soldered them. I flipped them. Not a big deal. It just, you have to remember that. But everything works. Volume, tone, the 3-way switch works. I did a little bit of tweaking on getting the strings at proper height, roughly getting these from what I could find online. I'm no expert in building and setting up guitars, so if you see anything wrong, please comment below and let me know. So we've got it plugged up here. I'm running it through my just little PV Viper 1 practice amp here, and we'll kind of go through just the basic sounds of it and let you guys hear it. Let's strum a little bit and see how she sounds. So that is the neck pickup. So that's the front one. Like I said, these are backwards because I think ideally that should be the bridge and that should be the neck. But it sounds great. I haven't really tested the intonation of it at all. Like I said, this is just quick setup, but from just basic practicing. The fret height or the string height seems to be great. You know, very happy with that. So it plays really nice. It's got a great sound to it. I mean, it really does. It's got that real bluesy sound. But no, overall, highly recommend you do this. It weighed in, before I forget, it weighed in at 6 pounds and 3 ounces, which is obviously lighter than a standard Telecaster. I think they're 8 pounds or a little under 8 pounds or so. But it's got some good substance to it as well, which is nice. It doesn't feel too light that it feels like a cheap toy. And the addition of that 12 millimeter rod through the body is also helping balance this out. So it has a good balance to it. It's not feel like it's dipping forward because there's too much weight in the neck, which is one of the things that the person who originally made this file had mentioned, that it didn't feel balanced. So adding that additional metal rod in there, I think, was the key to its success. So yeah, I'll post the Fusion 360 file or the link to the Thingiverse page where I remixed his file that has the updated bridge holes and the other changes that I put with the 12 millimeter rod, things of that nature. And I'll also list the parts that I used to build this. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And thanks for watching, and we're going to cut to some awesome shots of this. So keep playing, and I hope you get the chance to make one of these. Peace out.